What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very somber Sunday edition of the Canes Inside Podcast. I'm here with Golden Cane. Mike Ryan flew on his private jet right after the game back to Kendall, and yeah, man, the vibes have not picked up. I was hoping that a nice day, some meaningful time with the family, and all these things would lift me back, but it's been unsuccessful. How you feeling?
Terrible, D. I'm like mad depressed. I look it. I'm wearing it. This season had the makings of being a really memorable one that was really important for the program. And this one kind of sits with me right now in a very different way than last year's disappointment sat with me. I mean, not to rehash and pick at old scores, but we were up 21-0 at Syracuse, but we knew with that team, they were a deeply flawed team. They did not have the defense, but we just wanted to get to the CFP. That was a huge goal. And I think that the talent on the roster is good enough. We saw in early season matchups that this team, when it hits its ceiling, can be certainly a CFP team and quite possibly in the national championship conversation. And to be here after a loss to SMU, in which we 2 weeks of us sounding every alarm bell that we can about this team beating itself. That's the biggest opponent that it could face this season was itself. And I'm sure they covered it in practice. I'm sure the coach preached it, but for whatever reason, and you can have a few, but we just couldn't be disciplined, and we sank. D, I'll kick it back over to you, but there are a lot of people picking at flaws on the roster, flaws on the staff. Certainly, we have our tendencies, and we stick to them. But I think right now the largest issue facing this team is an intangible one. It is a culture. It is a problem with overcoming adversity. This team for the last 3 years, when teams feel like they have a pretty good idea of what Miami is going to be doing on either side of the ball, Miami doesn't really have an answer for that, and it kind of sinks it into itself, and there is like a weird vibe around the team when a team finally cracks the code, because it's like they don't have the faith that they can dig themselves out of it. And it may start at the top. I don't know what it is, but this one really stings because we have the talent, D. We have the talent.
Yeah, it stings for a lot of reasons. And I think you hit on it earlier, which is like last year, you could have said, if you were defending this team for the future, which obviously I'm doing at all times because I'm positive, I'm always trying to figure out ways it could work. You'd say, okay, well, the things that, Mario does and that this staff identity is about, this cultural identity is about, in terms of running the ball with efficiency, which we did last year and really had done consistently through their tenure here and then at Oregon. You say, okay, well, that's good. We can count on that, right? The problems are going to be the defensive scheme, which is just sending our guys in way too many directions, too much movement, too many stunts, not just lining up, playing fundamentals and winning. It's just a scheme that's mismatched. Okay, we've seen that before. D'Onofrio to Manny, we've seen that situation happen where it improves for the better with simple scheme change. You say defensive backs, just a clear talent issue. We just need better players there. You import 6, 7 transfer portal defensive backs who turn out to be very good players. So you say, okay, well, these were discrete problems separate from our overall culture and philosophy and identity. Fix these. The other stuff's working. We win and we improve. Those things were fixed. I mean, the Heatherman is clear upgrade at defensive coordinator. I don't think anyone's complaining about what he has brought to the table. Maybe it's just a couple things here and there, but he's good. He has market value. People would want to have him as their defensive coordinator. And then the guys we brought in the secondary, Keontae Scott's one of the best nickels in the country, right? Jacoby Thomas and Poyser have really improved the safety position, and our corners are much improved. So that's not the issue. Then you say, okay, well, what's happening? Pulled up penalties, 134th nationally. That's 2 from the bottom. Only Wake Forest and Georgia State are worse in terms of penalties per game, 8.6 penalties per game for the Miami Hurricanes. And then you look at the running game, which, look, teams are stacking the box. That's fine. You got to find a way to make it work. Our yards per rush is 83rd in the nation. 3.9. It was top 5 last year. So I think what you're seeing is the things that you are struggling with are not things you could just cut out and replace, right? It's kind of like when you're doing surgery and there's like vital organs that if you get rid of the thing that's causing problems, you kill the patient. I mean, these are things that are intrinsic to the head coach and the way he wants his program to operate. So if you're failing in those things, there needs to be a lot of internal soul searching. You can't just point at a coordinator or point at a position group that lacks talent. And that to me is my big takeaway from this particular failure is the things that are supposed to be the heartbeat of this program, discipline, which we know penalties have been a problem for a while, but on paper, discipline, just kind of team buy-in with that. And then of course the inability to run the ball and to have a functional offense, despite having a veteran quarterback, a very highly paid offensive line, and enough skill position guys to win in the ACC.
Yeah, agree with everything that you're saying, D. On our Wednesday show, I made the point to say, I know this team needs to prove that it can win, but the staff kind of needs to prove it too. And I know Mario's done some winning in other places. But this team's identity is if we need a yard, we'll run it up the A gap and get it. And we haven't. There were a couple of big moments this season against Louisville, against SMU, where that happened. Team stacked the box and we got pushed back. And if you're the O-line discipline guy and we're third from the bottom in penalties and the most fragile unit on the team seems to be the O-line, that is a time for reflection for the head coach. I think that mentally this team gets tight when it faces adversity. And they might be stubborn. Look, Mario Cristobal is a stubborn man. That's all right. A lot of championship coaches are stubborn. They don't get to where they don't get to the highest levels without being stubborn. They're not necessarily people. But I think that there is an energy that Mario puts out around the staff and players that for whatever reason, D-Money is not contributing to a belief this team can dig itself out when other teams latch on to our tendencies. And he's going to have to fix that part. I don't think college football is ever going to get to the place again where you have a roster like LSU's where you're just stacked with Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I think that there's way too much parity in the sport now. You're going to have to do some of this stuff between the ears. And it's a real gut check, I think, for Mario Cristobal, because we were right to seize on that first half against Stanford, D-Money. There was a lot of stuff in that first half that really scared me in terms of approach and tightness. It pulsated off of the sideline. This team lost a belief. It's a real front-running team, and they can't take a punch, and that needs to be fixed. The discipline is another thing we can get into. I was at the game. I can apply some context. Yes, they were penalized 12 times. Yes, they are undisciplined. Was all that stuff legitimate? It happened at a really unfortunate time for a team that is struggling with penalties to run in the situation that they did, because I'm a 40-year-old man that's about to complain about the officiating, but that was a disaster. The problem is, though, that you're in a one-score game against SMU when there were opportunities for you to take that game, fully control it, give yourself a margin of error, and not put it in the referee's hands. But when the game was in the referee's hands, it went just about the way that you would assume it would.
Yeah, the refs were bad. My kind of stock response to this is there's a million specific examples of the refs getting calls wrong. Going back to Marty Brown's touchdown against UF, which was one of the more egregious ones that they stopped. They blew that one dead. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're 134th in penalties, and just to go down memory lane, I've done this before, it's painful, but let's look at last year where we were at penalties per game with a lot of different refs involved, 98th. So we got significantly worse, 6.5 to 8+, but still poor. in the penalty
Yeah,
department,
think
and then
that there-
80th in 2023.
I was really trying to pay attention to what opposing defenses are doing. Post USF, we both had the observation that USF started doing something on defense that our O-line was really rattled by and started jumping early. And you have teams now, SMU, pretending like they're rushing, kind of simulating a snap for our offensive linemen. Like, we don't have an answer for that. We get fooled by it a lot. One note, a lot of these procedural penalties happened, the ones on the offensive side happened in this first half. It was something that Miami generally cleaned up in that second half, outside of the huge swinging moments in that fourth quarter. I gotta say that is a very tiny stadium. It was half filled with Miami Hurricanes fans. You wouldn't expect the home field advantage that they have. I've been to a lot of stadiums. We've been to Kyle Field. I have never heard a louder stadium in my entire life than that stadium, and it was totally manufactured. And I know Miami had to have said something at the half because it stopped at halftime. This PA was blasting music to the point that Miami was waiting on offense for the music to stop. They were just like drowned out. I haven't seen anything like it. It was crazy. Beck was very clearly frustrated on the sidelines by it. And again, though, that's a road game. You have more talent than SMU, and it shouldn't come down to these things. And I feel really pathetic for even invoking it. I think the larger issues, though, were what happened in that fourth quarter. And, you know, I would like to see what the ACC is going to say. I mean, what are they going to say about it? But picking up the flag on Marion, I understand what the point is, right? The Miami doesn't have an opportunity for Marion to draw that penalty if we're not for the holding, right? So that's probably the conversation. You have an official that's right on it that decided to not throw the flag when the guy gets clearly grabbed. The official from the other sideline throws it, and they have a discussion and they pick it up. That's a disciplined play. I don't care that it was born out of a holding call. That should have been an offsetting penalty. It was very clear, and SMU got the benefit of the doubt there, and Marcus Lightfoot doesn't. That was really, really frustrating to see happen live. But again, we have to have the type of team that can overcome that kind of stuff, and we don't right now. D, we don't.
Sure don't. I'm really worried about the rest of the season, and we'll talk about that in a second, because these November losses are usually not one-offs. It was November 1st, and we didn't wait at all. I mean, November 1st happened, and we dropped the November game right out the top. So they're very punctual with this November here. AZ saying, I looked my wife, but I appreciate your support. He said, I looked my wife in the eyes a few weeks ago and told her this team was different and really meant it. How could I do this to myself again? Yeah. No, I mean,
it did feel different. This season, it had the makings. And now you got a 2-loss team. We'll see. I guess the good news is if this loss happened at the end of the season, you'd definitely be shut out of the CFP. College football is a weird sport. If this team were to rally and put up a month of clean football, the CFP is in a real pickle, because they're going to want to put Notre Dame in there. And how do you put Notre Dame in there and not Miami if they have the same record? But I did listen to our good friend David Lake's post-game presser, and I know this season felt like CFP or bust. The waters are as muddied as ever on that front right now. But I do think it is hugely important for Mario Cristobal not just to maintain the program trajectory of winning 10 games. I don't want to take a step back from last year. That is not what a recruiting-based head coach should be about, especially one as effective at talent acquisition as Mario Cristobal is. I think they got to put up a 10-win season here. I think that's hugely important, but the most important thing, D, because in getting those results, you're going to see that the team galvanized and was brought back together and could handle this bit of adversity. But unfortunately, D, I'm really aligned with you in that we share the same concern. I think that there isn't enough there for me to have the belief that this staff and these players will come together and do the things necessary to turn this season around. And it's the kind of attitude on the sidelines. It's quitting in overtime. It's the bickering on the sidelines that has me worried about even Syracuse, because we are a front running team and we had the opportunity to galvanize and we blew it. We blew this season, dude.
Yeah, it was a flop, man. I gotta say, I'm letting go of the rope myself. I forgot to even introduce Anajar and Levine, accident attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3333. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. But I'm trying to recover, rally, because I do think, look, this season is trending to be a flop based on what happened here and the odds of getting into the playoff, everything else, and the fear that we have. We'll get into it of, the team not finish. There's 4 games left, and every game could be a loss, as we found out. That NC State game with CJ Bailey starting to really get hot coming home. That one kind of has you circled there, or you have circled, because that feels like a painful one, just knowing the history of how these things tend to go.
Yeah, it's the trademark save Dave Doran's job game.
Save Dave Doran's job. I already see the negative tweets when Bailey wins. I mean, it's that's what you don't want to see. But we got to get by Syracuse. I mean, every game is scheduled potential loss here. But look, I'm wearing my hat. It says recover, because I am trying to recover. If you want to recover your game, if you're an athlete, you're beat up, you're not feeling good, you're not feeling 100%, talk to the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Listen, maybe you can come back early, do your own rehab, but you're not going to be 100%. If compromising your movement or performance is not an option, call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Whether it's league competition with athletics or everyday movement, the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute is the trusted choice for those who demand excellence. Set an appointment today at uhealthsports.com. All right, Mike, let's get to more of these super chats here. Stephen Aveo says, we have to acknowledge that Mario is a great recruiter, but one of the worst we've seen everywhere else coach-wise. That'll be tested right now, man, because there's going to be a lot of coaching needs to be done to get these kids back on track here after, listen, a very heartbreaking loss early. This is not the last game of the season in Syracuse. This is November 1st. This is a tough deep stretch psychologically here with Beck and with everybody else.
Yeah. Look, the team showed resiliency last year. I think you could put a lot of that on number one, though, last year, that he tried to, when this team was down big in games, they would claw and they would fight. You spend 4 years getting the locker room the way that you want it. We were talking about culture, how much more time does he need to get the right guys in the room from that perspective? We put a lot of this character stuff on a bunch of Manny guys that went out and went to SMU and ended up not losing a friggin' conference game. We got to get this room right. He's got to lead. He's got to bring this team together right now. And he's got to look himself in the mirror too and ask the questions, why 4 years into this project at Miami, does he have to ask himself that?
Yep. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Let me get through some of these. Stop me when you want to comment on here.
Yep.
As we go through the super chats. Jay Lundy's has time to call a sports psychologist. I mean, I need a psychologist here. Michael Hodges, appreciate your support. Mr. Prime saying, going against a bad pass defense, we should have went 4 wide. I mean, he had all day to throw. I don't know. The thing I guess I don't understand is the fear of I understood the 4 turnover game against Louisville. The fear of throwing when you have such good pass protection and a veteran quarterback, that'd make them stop me throwing the ball at times. Look, and there's the protection. I mean, that gives you such a high margin for error. Keith Wilson, can appreciate everybody's support here. Says, Mario, thanks for the only ones that lift weights so we can out-muscle everyone. Miami A-gap Hurricanes, regardless of what makes sense. I think you're definitely seeing that on short yardage here, Mike, where you pride yourself on short yardage and you're repeatedly not getting it done against ACC competition, which should be easier.
We're not surprising anybody with the jumbo sets. It was effective early on when we unveiled it against USF. It was a new, fresh look. Every time we've trotted it out since then, I know we threw out of it once, but it's not surprising anybody D-money. And I think in these short yardage situations, we can't just think that it's a numbers game. How are we getting stopped there? They have more guys there to stop it, and we're just running into it. We're not who we are in that respect. The previous super chat though does give me an opportunity to talk about Carson Beck, because I know a lot of people are super frustrated with the interception at the end. Interceptions are a part of the game with Carson Beck. On that last play, once again, not the greatest body language and post-game presser from Carson Beck. He did provide some insight as to what happened on that interception. Look, Malachi Tony is a really good player. I think that miscommunication, correct me if I'm wrong here. I know most of us will back Malachi Tony in this situation. I know Carson Beck was expecting him to flatten out that route and Malachi Tony allowed for a defender to come underneath there. And that was just really unfortunate miscommunication at the worst time possible. But Beck was very accurate in this game. Beck was making big time throws. Beck was extending plays when he needed to. I thought he showed resilience, and it made me want to trust him more. And I know a lot of people are just going to be carrying that lasting image of him throwing the interception at the end. There were a dozen reasons why Miami lost this game. Carson Beck is near the bottom for me. I thought that was one of the stronger performances in a game that we needed a good Carson Beck performance. I had no complaints about that. I'm curious your thoughts.
No, I mean, I thought he was okay. Pretty good, actually, until the last play. And it was a communication issue. Clearly, it's hard to know without knowing exactly what was going on there. Beck obviously, I think, expected a different depth from Tony. Or it just, something seemed off communication-wise. Beck is not the most creative guy. So when you see him start trying, that's one thing when he does have a lot of time is, he's not like Ward where he has a lot of time and he's going to really find those angles. Beck's not that kind of creative guy. He's very much, the longer he holds on to, probably the worse he gets.
Yeah. I mean, he did make a hell of a throw on the third down before, and on that play that he was extending, that ended up being an illegal man downfield, right? D-Money. On that play, if you guys watch it, Malachi Tony just gets trucked as he's like running around trying to make things happen. He was constantly calling for the ball. Beck looked at him several times. There was one moment where an SMU defender just tackled him and the play continued. And that was another one of those situations where you wanted an offsetting penalty or something. That was really unfortunate. But I thought Beck was accurate. I think that there is something to less zip. These were more touch passes than him just driving the ball. But you can complain about Beck. That's cool. Look, he's not Cam Ward. A few people are. But he is also displaying less arm strength as the season goes on, and has me a little concerned. But he was pretty accurate. He was one of the better players on Miami yesterday, honestly.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. Kevin Dennis saying Morrow should just recruit and stay the hell out of the way on game day. Hire a former HC to manage the game. Ethio Kane.
He does that. I mean, like, I'm sure he has influence, and everyone wants to read into the sideline argument that he had with Shannon Dawson. Like, he trusts his coaches. He does. Like, he may be generally tight, and they may be afraid of him, and that may certainly have an impact. But Mario Cristobal is not putting on the headset and telling and drawing up the plays. Like, Mario Cristobal is a CEO, and he has to lead. And I think when he faces adversity with this team, he gets a little tight. And whether he knows it or not, that has ramifications. And it trickles all the way down to the players on the roster. Again, I think it's a big week for Mario Cristobal to shake this off, because they're taking their cues from the top. And he does tend to get tight. He does.
Yeah, no, it's I've heard it speculated that part of the reason why this team over time gets worse is just because that eventually permeates that just playing not to lose mentality, that like, you have something, if you don't lose it, as opposed to go win something mentality, that over time that permeates to the players. And, it's going to be interesting to see how we play the rest of the season, because theoretically it's not like we have that much to protect. More it's about we got to show that we belong in the playoff. Which is
you got to go for it.
So that's going to be interesting to see how we react in that front.
To your point, I'm curious, D, because we've been going back and forth a little bit in the chat, but the last few seasons, and we made this point on the Wednesday show, there seems to always be one game where teams all over our tendencies, and it provides a blueprint. And we see the same kind of coverages from defenses, same kind of tactics from the defenses that we faced thereafter. A couple of years ago, it was a Georgia Tech kneeling game. Last year was a Virginia Tech game. This year, Louisville started doing some things that teams started replicating. We don't really seem to have an answer for that. We've talked about this some in the last few weeks. We were worried that with that first half against Stanford, we were once again showing that we didn't have anything for that. Are we just that team? Like, it is what it is. Like, Shannon Dawson wasn't kidding around when he said it is what it is. Is that just the philosophy here?
Yeah, it's not going to change here. I'm, in the middle of the season as far as how they operate in terms of the running game, the identity. That's not something you change mid-year. You can, but it's that's not. I don't see that happening here.
I was actually pleased with Shannon Dawson's response. Weren't you? Like, I thought we were doing some creative stuff with Malachi Toney in the backfield. We were seeing some outside runs there. Ultimately, like, there were times that we needed a yard, we didn't get it, and we had huge penalties, back-breaking penalties in this game. Like, you look at the box score, it doesn't make sense how we lost this game, and then you see, like, oh, we gave them 100 yards in penalties there. But I do think it's fair. Why we're bizarro Marcus Freeman, right? Notre Dame stinks at the start of the years, and they grow stronger, and they know how to handle adversity, and they use it to their advantage, and they build off of that. They improve. Last couple seasons here, really dating back to year one, although year one, I don't know what kind of data you can pull from that. We just hit a wall, and we got no answers once teams jump on our tendencies, and we get worse as the year goes on. And that's really, really tough to acknowledge and talk out loud here.
Yeah, no question about it. It's bizarre. Marcus Freeman is a good way to put it. That's Notre Dame would be a heavy favorite against us if they played us today, obviously. Without any injuries. I mean, that's the thing that we haven't talked about. We've been pretty healthy, knock on wood. So it's not like like a Bane or someone's out, and that's why the team's quality has dropped off.
Yeah, I miss CJ a little bit, but JoJo gave you something, and then he also, he gave and then took away in that game. But we've been pretty healthy, dude. That's why this one really, really stings. I guess it's a testament to the turnaround job that Mario Cristobal has done. Because we would lose these types of games routinely over the last 20 years. And this one hurts the most because I think we all kind of knew that this team had a shot, and it got in its own way. Look, 2 seasons of Miami Hurricanes football, and we haven't had to suffer the indignity of losing a game by more than a score. We're right there. We're right friggin' there. And a lot of the things that are keeping us from where we want to go is between the ears. We're doing it to ourselves, man. That's the part that sucks the most about this. Is you fixed a lot of the flaws from last year, and you have the talent. When you play a clean game, you're right there with the best in the nation, and you can't get out of your own goddamn way.
Yep. No, I'm with you. I want to get to these super chats here because they're stacking up. A lot of people want to talk about the Canes. Yes, and vent. Let them vent. Better them than me.
Apologies for rambling.
No, you're not rambling at all. You're on point. I'm trying to get my juice up, man. It's one of those, like I said last time we lost to Louisville. I wasn't demoralized, but I'm anxious because we knew there was another ACC game that was going to be a problem just because of history, and now I'm in the demoralized stage. Ethio Kane says, frustrating to watch us every year be undisciplined and from Ohio, bantered mercilessly from Buckeyes fans 2 decades. Man, it's getting old. Bangkok Vice says Mario buy a Ferrari and use 85 gas. Dawson kick rocks too. Brandon Vanek saying Mario's been a Napier and Norvell merchant. That's been a nice side effect of them being bad is we get to beat them when we're not perfectly right. Etch is saying something. Appreciate your support, everybody's support. There's something horribly wrong at the core of this program. Maybe Mario gets the roster not only better, but he is who he is. We've reached our ceiling. Let's see here.
I appreciate the super chat, but I think that's a bit of an overreaction.
Yeah. Nicholas Watson says P. Wright 2 10-win seasons and one of them under Mario go win 10 again. Look, we got to win 10 first of all. We're at 6 right now, and every game is going to be one that we don't feel great about going in. So we'll see how the season ends. But I don't believe in recalibrating the expectation. I think internally everybody had expectations. AZ says, you guys botch my super chats every time. No, Mas, we're the first one we read, AZ. You're the first one we read. All right. So Yeah, man, it's brutal. Going forward, my concern is I do think we're going to try to do things differently, just because there's less of a don't lose. Like it's just we've less to lose. I guess the best way to say it. But at the same time, I mean, the funny thing is everybody's going to say season's over. We're probably not going to make the playoffs. That very unlikely to make the ACC championship. So the rest of the season doesn't matter. But the second we lose to NC State, everybody's going to be really upset. So the season does matter. You got to win these games. And
these are hugely important games. I know everyone's feeling like they're checking out on the season. Guys, we need to evaluate what this head coach and this staff is made out of. This is hugely important to see which players check out, to see what kind of leaders you have in that locker room, to see if you can dig yourself out of big time adversity. Look, Jim Harbaugh won a national title in Michigan. His entire tenure there was plagued with disappointments like this and people calling for his job. He needed a missed field goal to basically keep his job. Ryan Day lost as a 20-point favorite to Michigan last year. And Nick Saban at college game day when we were playing FSU talked about, loving these moments when the team faced adversity. Last year, Alabama got thoroughly dominated by an objectively mid Oklahoma team, and 12 days later, they were back in the CFP discussion. The timing of this loss does work out in that if you put up a month of clean, dominant football, you're going to have to make yourself unavoidable when it comes to that CFP discussion. And I do think that when we come down, look, we had 2 losses last year. Everyone knew our defense was bad. Everyone knew we were going up against an SEC propaganda machine, and we didn't have the non-conference wins to make a compelling case. We have that this year. We have the non-conference wins to make a compelling case. And you have the ace up your card in that they're going to try to move heaven and earth to get Notre Dame in that college football playoff. They gotta, if they're keeping them out, if they're putting them in, they got to put us in. That it's as simple as that. Those head-to-head results have to matter. So I think that there's a lot to play for here, but the number one overall thing is this is a huge moment for the program that Mario Cristobal is building. He needs to show that he can rally the troops and they can turn this thing around. And I'm with you, D. It's time to grip it and rip it. Like that conservative approach and that tightness when you feel like, okay, we just got to win. We just got to get these dubs. It's why Miami kind of falls apart in these fourth quarters against Notre Dame and FSU. We're just obsessed with getting the result. You didn't get the result. Go out there and let your talent win games. Be free. Don't be as tight. Change the temperature in the room right now because it is bad.
Yep. No, it's bad vibes, man. I'm glad we're starting with Syracuse at home because that is probably the easiest game left on the 4-game slate. Now, that doesn't mean you can't lose that game, but certainly it gets you at least a chance to get your bearings before what's going to be a very tough NC State offense. But look, there's no guarantee to be a Syracuse. We know we've been here before. Mo Hussein said the year they all won the Natty. Dabo year 7-8, Ryan Day year 6-7, Harbaugh year 9. Mario doesn't even finish year 4. We are still on track. Let's see where this one goes, I think is the best way. I mean, right now we are not on track with the way the season was supposed to go and what everybody expected. So I think the finish is going to tell us a lot because this thing can go south. These Novembers go sideways. These losses aren't just isolated events. Usually it's usually just the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately.
That's the record. I think most of the projections had us at 2 losses. Let's split between Florida and Notre Dame, and we'll lose that 1 conference games, but let's get to Charlotte. Charlotte's not going to happen. I mean, I guess there's a pathway to it, but you can't put it past the ACC to act like the ACC. But I think the saddest part here is it's not necessarily the defeat. It's a feeling that you have when you're witnessing this because you know that it goes beyond the game. It's not a bad defense. It's not really a bad coordinator. I don't think. Like, people can have their opinions about Shannon Dawson. I'm not there. I think he's fine enough.
Yeah.
It's about this team facing adversity and what they decide to do with it. And this is a huge month for Mario Cristobal. He needs to fix that.
Yeah, G9 is making a good point, which is 10-2 is the projection for the season. That was my season prediction. I thought we'd split the out of conference tough games, or lose one of those and then lose one of these ACC games, and hopefully make the playoff or make the ACC, because that's the goal. If you don't achieve that, you're back where you were last year in a disappointing season. I have doubts about that, just because, again, the stuff we're talking about right now, which is, if you're Beck, you're frustrated. Obviously, it's not how you drew it up. The running game is one of the worst in the country on a per carry basis right now, and has gotten worse over as the competition theoretically has gotten easier. CJ Daniels, who knows when he gets back? I don't know anything about his injury specifically, so I can't speculate on that. But obviously, you got some production from JoJo Trader, nothing from Josh Moore, and you had a big drop from JoJo. Really, Malachi's the only reliable option you have. Keelan Marion did a solid job.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't even covered the Lofton drop.
But still, Lofton. I mean, we could talk about it. And look, I'll gladly take the blame on that. I was the biggest Lofton fan coming out of spring. I will say that most people who were at practice watching Lofton in spring had the same kind of thoughts. It was certainly not like, I asked people, am I crazy for saying, before I even made that take, I asked people around there, I'm like, hey, am I crazy for saying that this guy looks like the best player on our team right now? I said, no, that's exactly what he looks like now. Right now, I would say he is probably the player hurting us the most on offense, period. Just because the blocking's not there. He just doesn't look quick and explosive. And then, the drop was a critical and tough play. I mean, you're getting hit, but you're a 250-pound tight end. That's the
you one. You gotta hold on to it. You just gotta hold on to that ball. You're a tight end. You're a gritty tight end. It's just it was a bummer, because when Malachi doesn't get that ball in the end zone, you're asking yourself in the stands, how are we gonna not get 6 here? You're dying for him to have that late burst and get in the end zone, because you're just gonna find a way to screw it up. I guess we could use a little bit more explosion. Man, this is bad.
Oh yeah, this is brutal. Jermaine Gray says, stop praising the OL. They haven't really been anything but average. No, I mean, look, I think the OL has been a huge disappointment. Coming out of that non-conference, I thought they were the best in the country, and that was not like people say it's a homer take. They were saying it nationally too. So it wasn't just us that were seeing that. But I think what you've seen with the offensive line, pass blocking's been good. Both the penalties falling more on the offensive line than any other position group. And then the running game. I mean, yes, they're stacking the box, but those 4th and 1s, and yeah, look, could the creativity be more on those plays? Yes, but you're banking on, hey, our offensive line is so much better than these ACC defensive lines that we could just plow forward on these short yardage plays. And that's been true in the past, and it's not true right now. So that's a personnel deal. I mean, there's a play calling aspect to it as well, because you're being stubborn, but you're putting faith in personnel that is not living up to what you thought it might be. So yeah, offensive line's been extremely disappointing. There's no question. I think probably more in the run game and penalties than the pass blocking. I think the pass blocking has been pretty darn good, which is another reason why I can't understand why we can't get this passing game going in a more explosive fashion. I know we don't have 5 Malachi Tonys or Jeremiah Smith and a Carnell Tate, but we should be more explosive than what we are given the protection. That's a lot of protection for a 6-year quarterback. I thought that would be enough to get us at least competent in offense. We knew it would take a step back from Cam Ward, but I thought the combination of the protection with the veteran quarterback, you'd be able to find enough answers to make explosive plays. But right now, as I look at let me just pull up yards per play here, offensively. It's this is a stat Miami was number 1 by a mile last year, as they were in pretty much all the offensive categories that mattered. 53rd right now in yards per play on the offensive side of the ball. So let's see. Leroy saying it's called predictability. I think that's absolutely right. Kirk mentioning the Brockermeyer struggling in run game. I think that's something that was a question going in with him, and unfortunately, you're seeing him struggle there.
At least he plays a clean brand of football, though. At least he's not killing us with procedural penalties.
Well, not anymore. Remember, we had those snap issues a little earlier, but yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of. Sorry, being sarcastic.
At a certain time, you got to take some of these guys off the field that are killing you. The holding is more subjective. I know Malinois got a tough one, but the pre-snap procedural stuff. If you're not giving me stuff in the run game, and you're nuking drives, the hell you playing for? If there is a player that I'm most angry at, it's him.
Yeah. Mohammed Hussein saying we haven't had back-to-back 10 seasons in 23 years. Well, we haven't had them yet. So you got to win out to go 10 wins. And that's, there's a lot this guy got cleaned up. So that leads to Jay Lundy's question, which is what's your message to the team moving forward? What needs to be done to take the next step as a program? Mike, you want me to start? I'll start. What do you want?
Yeah, I'm curious your thoughts because I have Mario being a needing to be a type of self-aware that and honest that I don't think he's cut out for.
All right, so I would say just let it rip. I mean, you got to just play looser. You have to play to win. You've just got to play like the other teams playing us are playing to win because they're the double-digit underdogs, and we got to have that mentality going forward. There's nothing to protect. I mean, this thing is you try to keep protecting these wins and winning them close. A great play caller, it's a couple bad calls, a couple penalties on unforced errors on your end, and you lose those games. So I think we just got to let it rip and let the chips fall. We have the better team. That's to me the message is. And then, competition, getting guys opportunities that, they're going to be hungry to perform. And as far as what needs to be done, take the next step as a program. I mean, in terms of result wise, obviously get over the hump, which we're getting our ass kicked by the hump right now. This is not, it didn't happen this year. This was a chance to get over the hump and we didn't, or at least doesn't look like we will. What needs to get done to take the next step? I wish I knew. I wish I had the answer. I don't think it's just like a firing coordinator deal like it was last year. There is to be some soul searching as far as the philosophy and just how we're going to approach this team, because the ability to just manhandle ACC opponents, which I thought was a given, has not happened. And that to me is the biggest story of the season as far as and not when I say manhandle, we always have lost the ACC. So it's not surprising that we fell short in the ACC because that's just happened all the time. But the bet was, you're going to be able to physically dominate up front in the ACC, and then you build around that premise. Mm-hmm. And that has not been there, as we found out.
I think that there are things that you can do from an approach standpoint that, I'd like to see from Mario Cristobal. I don't think Mario Cristobal is going to turn the temperature in that room down. That's just not how he's built. That's all right. So let's talk about what can be done. Teams are on our tendencies. We're not going to reshape the offense. I get that, but you got to do more. And I'm right there with you, D. We're going to grip it and rip it. We're not going to play so conservative. We're going to go out there to try to force the will when it comes to these explosive plays. And frankly, I know how they must be so furious if they're watching the content that we put out. And no one's more pissed off about the penalties than the coaching staff. They drill it into these players. But I still see the same players and the same offenders out there. I think it's gotten to a certain point where if you're hurting this team from that perspective, if you're not making plays, if you're not nailing your blocking assignments, if you're dropping passes, if you're not doing the things that help us win, playing time is earned here. And I think a lot of the guys have been hurting this team from a procedural standpoint. Got to get out. Next man up. You got to earn the playing time. And so I think that that's one of the few tangible things, along with a shift in approach and telling your quarterback, we trust you. You're going to be the one that digs us out of this. We're going to empower you more. And I know a lot of people are scared because he's going to turn the ball over. You need to be okay with that. You need to be okay with that. Cam Ward turned the ball over too. Plenty. You need to be okay with that. Go out there and give these guys, empower them, give them the opportunity to turn this season around, because everybody just sinks into their little emo hole, and the coach hasn't done anything to change that. He needs to reflect all day today and find a way to get over that hump personally, because the same way it negatively trickles down, I assume if he does the things necessary, it'll have a positive trickle-down effect. He needs to show that he's not going to have a team that quits on him here. It's a big moment for Mario Cristobal.
Could not agree more. I mean, Dan, thank you here. Look at this. Nick Watson on basketball. Does Jay Lucas stick around if he has success early? Most left field super chat. Nicholas, I appreciate you getting us off base. I hope he has that kind of success, and we got to worry about that. We need a breather. That starts on Monday, so we're back in business. But yeah, I think the idea, it is weird. Look, Beck has turned it over, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that, including his own mistakes. But if you can't trust a 6-year quarterback with good protection, who are you going to trust?
Precisely. Especially, it's not like the running game is cooking. I mean, you grade things out on offense. I know the backbreaking turnover at the end, but look, and the post-game press conference didn't help his case, but you got to turn to the 6-year quarterback that you're paying a lot of money to go out there and, hey, we're changing this entire approach. We're not going to play scared anymore. You're going to lead us there. He's won the SEC. He's won plenty of big-time games. You know, you got to, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, what are your answers? Like, it's easy to crap on the quarterback and say he's not the guy. What's the answer? He's much better than Emory. But the running game isn't doing anything. For better or worse, you're going to have to ride that guy. The games that we lost, I know he had the 4 turnover game. Fine, put that on him. That's cool. Yesterday was not on him. Let's go. Like, he's going to have to lead. He's going to have to go outside of himself too. He's going to have to not sink into a hole.
Yeah.
He's going to have to stop being so emo. He's going to have to turn it around. All right. If we like, that is a management position on this team. You have the CEO, Mario Cristobal. One of his upper management types is Carson Beck. Don't play into the same kind of tropes. Turn it around, young man.
And look, I mean, the truth is, if you look at, so I mentioned our rush offense, we're in the 80s in yards per rush. I mean, the passing game's not great, but it's better at 7.8 per pass, meaning maybe it just statistically makes sense to lean into the passing game. And if they start loosening up the boxes, then you could get back to your running game and try to get that going. But statistically, we are having more success passing the ball than throwing the ball. And yes, that is a lot of it is because of the way teams are playing us. But if they're going to play us like that, forget our identity. Let's just lean into your quarterback, not freak out about the potential for turnovers for a season that could be lost anyways.
Yep.
And get him going in the running. If you want to get the running, if that's going to back up safeties, then you get the running game going that way. I mean, you got to let it rip. That's the best I could say.
And probably get the center out of there.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Rodriguez is a really good player that I think has a chance to impress if he gets
the playing time. Push him. I don't understand why is this guy just on the field all the time if he's not blocking well and if he's killing this team with penalties. What is it? Why is he out there? He's not that much better. He's not that much better than Rodriguez. He's not. He can't possibly be.
Yep. No. All I know is I'm a fan of Ryan, and I want to see him get some kind of shot. AZ. All right, he's back. See, we don't bury your super chats. And with a new game called Who Would You Rather Be? Am I a Hurricanes fan or Big O's puberty sock? I'm not familiar with the second one. But, I'm fine being a Miami Hurricane fan. It's a bummer, but we'll get there. We'll get there someday. Let's see. Etch is saying we need to concede this not happening tomorrow. It's insane at this point. We have the roster bulldoze the ACC lame duck staff.
A little overreaction. I think that, look, keep that in drafts. If this team quits on the head coach against Syracuse, if they throw out a first half like they did against Stanford, go ahead and tweet and fire away. I think that this is a huge moment in time for the staff and Mario Cristobal. He's earned the right because, look, we're pissed off and in large part due to our expectations being ramped up to a place that they haven't been in damn near 20 years. All right? He has let you down, no doubt, but he also built you up. You're having the kind of season right now that you were begging for in the mid-20 teens. All right? He needs to turn this moment around. He needs to bring this group together. They need to rally. They need to change their approach. The change starts with him. I will give him the opportunity to do that before I start calling for anything. He has earned that much. Keep it in drafts. They got to show you now. They got to go out there and show you they're not going to quit.
I'm with it, man. You got to go, right? You got to play, or what do you got going on?
Soccer. Got to take out my frustration over it on a bunch of damn near 40-year-olds. Let's do this thing.
Knock them dead.
I just need to get out there and move and hit the ground a couple of times. Feel alive.
All right, brother. Touch grass. Have fun. You're the man. Appreciate you.
Sure. Go Canes.
Go Canes. I'll tell you what I need this morning. That is Islas Canarias Cuban Express. I need some comfort food. Just like, You had it at your grandparents' house right there. Islas Canarias Cuban Express, 7 different types of croquetas. You got the Cuban sandwich, pan con lechon, all the classics, medianoche. You got these loaded tostones, loaded fries, cubaritos if you want to grab and go, some soups. If you just want to grab something quick, the bakery is locked and loaded. Sweet stuff, savory stuff, kind of in between. They got that as well, the bowl salads. Coffee, shakes, juices, you name it. They have it at Islas Canarias Cuban Express right there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. Canes lose, but you're still going to be hungry, so might as well fill it up with something that's going to make you feel better. Islas Canarias Cuban Express. Let's see what's going on here. Nick Canillo says identities equal being predictable. Good football teams don't have identities, and they can do it all and counter a defense at all times. Steve Smith says O-line draft stock is dropping expeditiously. I would agree with that. Offensive line just not playing well, man. I was talking to people that would know more than me, just people that work in football in the higher levels, and they were saying that one of the reasons our offensive line or our run game doesn't go outside as much is we're just not that big. We're not that athletic. We're big. We're not that athletic. So some of it's personnel driven, which is, look, if you're going to recruit that way, you got to get these short yardage by just pushing guys off the ball. And right now, whether it's predictability or we're just not as powerful as we think, it's not happening. Tyler Cannon says ran to Peeps and his pops. Pete and his pops and Dallas vibes were high, really didn't affect the outcome, but the game changed the moment JoJo bobbled that ball into the INT. There's no question. Ben Marcus says Mara's 2026 to replace and fully delegate OC. I don't know if I'm there yet. I think last year was much more of a fire the coordinator kind of deal. This year, there's a lot more internal stuff that needs to get fixed. And this is true. I mean, offensive line is hard when everyone knows where you were going. That is one of the issues, particularly in short yardage. I think is where we really struggle. Over 1,800 on. I know he's fired up, but like and subscribe. You guys vent here. This is a safe space to vent. We won't hide your comments. Go in here and let us know how you feel. That's what we're here for, man. Is to give you guys a sounding board. Miami Hurricane team store. Listen, let's focus on the basketball stuff because basketball season is starting. So you want to get the jersey. Look at this nice youth jersey for your kids. They got all kinds of jerseys, all kinds of basketball gear as we gear up for basketball season. Get baseball's always high. You get the Miami Maniacs hat. There you got the youth jersey. They got adult jerseys as well. All the baseball gear. And if you're still brave enough to get the football stuff, you got it right here. But yeah, man, tough times. But sports goes on. 305 is always repping. A lot of great stuff here at the Miami Hurricane team store. Promo code Insight20 for 20% off your first item. Oh, let's see here. All right, everybody. Well, appreciate you guys joining us. Remember to like and subscribe to the show. Go Canes.